So last year I released my latest book, The Naked Truth. And as part of the release, I promised to answer some questions from the people who did the pre-orders. And some of those questions have come through, and I'm going to answer one of those now. And I'm going to do a series of videos, which will be collected together as a single podcast, answering all these questions about how to be honest in the real world, how to overcome the challenges both internally and externally to being a truthful person. So let's deal with a question from Chris. In negotiating agreements, contracts, salary, terms and conditions, etc., experience tells me that the more open and honest we are and the more we divulge, the less leverage we have in the negotiation, especially when the other party isn't as honest as we are and may end up being a sneaky, selfish, or greedy person. That said, how do we handle a negotiation without being dishonest and without losing our leverage and without being taken advantage of due to our openness and honesty? Excellent question. This is one of the key elements of life that people believe dishonesty or some form of strategic conversation is necessary. Negotiation is kind of a fancy word for hiding some things and using certain things to get what you want. First off, you've got to understand where leverage really lies. Leverage isn't about who's keeping the best secrets. Leverage is about who needs it more. If you can understand that, you'll realize that honesty is not actually the concern here. The concern is neediness. If you go into a negotiation needing the outcome less than the other person, you have leverage. I remember first seeing this when I went with my younger brother to go buy a car. Even when he really wanted a car, he kind of acted like he didn't. And at first I thought this was fake, but what I realized is this guy's managed to get what he wants all the time because he really is willing to lose. If he has a bottom line, he won't go below it. He'll just walk away from the deal. And because of that, he gets what he wants a lot of the time. Quite a lot of the time. He's doing very well for himself. So a lot of people think it comes down to your strategy, your negotiation, your seduction skills when it comes to getting what you want. What it really comes down to is attachment to outcomes. And that's not an honesty issue. In fact, honesty not only helps you get rid of your attachment to outcomes, it shows the other person that you don't have it. So you can say to someone, I really want this job, but I'm not going to do it for less than, whatever, 80K a year. And they say, sorry, best we can do is 75. And you say, well, I guess I've got to walk away then, thanks for your time. You're the one with leverage. Because if they can't come up $5,000 to meet you, they never really wanted you that badly anyway. And in the long run, that's not the kind of job you want. What really helps, and this is what I talk about in the book under the fourth principle of powerful honesty, cosmic perspective. If you want a negotiation to go well, you've got to see the bigger picture. And by bigger picture, I don't mean like viewing it like a chess game. What is the other person thinking? I mean your whole life. Do you really want to have to beg and chase and deceive people to get what you want? Is that the kind of life you want to lead? Think about a career. If you have to sneak your way in because the real you wouldn't have got the job, what's it going to be like to work there? You're going to have to continue being fake. If you have to use dishonesty in a negotiation, you're setting up a pathway here where you're going to obtain the thing by dishonesty and therefore have to keep it with dishonesty. And that's quite often the case with secrets. Whenever we tell a lie, we then have to tell backup lies to maintain the first lie. And quite often this gets out of hand until we create a whole lie world around us. Now, it doesn't always happen, but there's always a risk of it. So you've got to ask yourself, the thing I'm trying to get, is it worth that? Is it worth having a lifestyle based on lies? Is it worth having to lie to cover up the other lie? Why do I want this so badly? Most of the time when you're negotiating for something, it's actually something you can live without. Are you negotiating from that perspective? Are you being honest with yourself and with the other person about that perspective? Let's say you're going to buy a car. Do you need the car to survive? This particular car that you're trying to buy. Is there no other car you could buy, or could you survive without a car? Because if the case is you don't need this particular car, then that's the strongest position you could ever be in a negotiation, and you don't need to be dishonest. You can say to the person, look, if I can't get the car for this deal, I'll have to go find another one because I don't need this one. I just want it for a good deal. You can say all that out in the open. You can have in your head your limits. You can even say, like, this is amazing during a negotiation. You can say, look, I was going to start by haggling you from 15 down to 10 grand, but why don't we just start at 10 because I don't want to play games with you. It's 10, take it or leave it. And they say, oh, actually, I'm going to have to go down to 9. You'd be like, okay, well, I tried. Thanks for your time. If somebody wants to sell that badly, they're not going to give it up over this tiny difference. And if they are that stubborn, then this is probably not a person you want in your life. You got to see the longer term ramifications here. You've also got to look at what happens if you're totally honest and you do get what you want. Let's say you go into a job interview and you let them know exactly who you are, your strengths and your weaknesses. You're neither humble, but nor are you self-deprecating. You kind of just let them know exactly who you are. And then they say, you're exactly the kind of person we want. Imagine how easy it's going to be to work there if you can go in honest. You don't have to pretend to be something you're not. You don't have to back up claims you made that were fanciful. You don't have to make it look like your resume was true when it wasn't. You can just be you right from the get-go. Isn't it worth going through a few job interviews to find that job rather than getting the first one based on lies? I'm not saying that deception doesn't work in negotiations, because it clearly does. But you've got to ask yourself, what does work mean? Does it mean you're actually getting what you want in the long term in terms of a life, in terms of being a person that you can be proud of? Or are you just getting an instant gratification that you might in fact regret later on? I always use the job one. Let's say you manage to kind of weasel your way into a job. What is it going to be like to work there if you had to start fake? And if you had to start fake, what kind of industry are you in? Is this really your passion industry? In my experience working with clients when I'm helping them with their careers, once they get into what I call the field, when they get into the realm of their passion, they're in the right industry, they're in the right field that suits them and it's what they're passionate about. Job interviews and everything like that are a breeze. They can just be themselves because they fit. The people who have to be deceptive are usually in the wrong place. That's why they had to be deceptive in the first place. Leverage is the key question here. Leverage is actually higher when you're honest. When you're out in the open, when all your cards are on the table and the other person is being sneaky, you're in the stronger position because they're vulnerable. They got secrets to keep. You've got no vulnerability as long as you're also not attached to the outcome. You might feel attached to the outcome. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about that, but you can behave unattached to the outcome. You can walk away and go find something else. There's 7 billion people in the world. There's probably a billion different types of jobs you can have. There's a billion cars you could buy. You don't need this next one. You don't need to give up your integrity just to get that instant win. You can do it, but is it going to be a long-term reward? Or are you going to get a short win followed by a life where you're a liar? Now, as I talk a lot about in the book, you've got to project what is it going to be like to be a dishonest person forever. If I have to be dishonest in this negotiation, what is it going to be like to be dishonest in every single negotiation I have? Wouldn't it be easier if I didn't have to think of what I was going to say next? Wouldn't it be easier if I was willing to walk away from any deal? Those are the questions I want to leave you with. Obviously, where I stand on the issue is pretty strong. In fact, any of the questions I get that say, is this a good excuse for being dishonest? My answer is generally going to be no, but it's not a moral viewpoint. It's an effectiveness viewpoint. Honesty in the long run is more effective for a better life than using dishonesty to take an easy win. Test it out for yourself. See if I'm lying. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to tune in for the rest of the series and my question and answer sessions for The Naked Truth. Go pick up a copy of the book yourself on Amazon. Subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you next time.